in the Gulf continues to take a toll on wildlife. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service says that more than 1,000 have been impacted by the spill. An untold number, of course, the other species at risk. I mean, the images are frankly just, they make you sick to your stomach, particularly those of the brown pelican, which just last year managed to make its way off the endangered species list after 4 decades. Drew Wheelan is Gulf Conservation Association. He joins me now. What are your biggest concerns? I mean, I think a lot that there is, in every boat that goes out right now, there has to be a federal wildlife official, a state wildlife, I think a BP contractor, and for a while there were bird experts, oiled bird experts going out, but they've actually now pulled back and they're no longer going out, and there's a lot of concern about the level of expertise of people actually getting these birds.
That's correct, Anderson. From the beginning, the IBRRC had people on the ground.
That was the
International Bird Rescue and Recovery Corporation had people on the ground from day one, and after they experienced that huge wave of oil on the 3rd and 4th of June.
Right, and that's when we started seeing all those pictures.
Exactly. There seemed to have been some sort of conflict between agencies and these people. They thought that the recovery mission wasn't going well enough. They weren't able to proactively go after birds that were still flighted, birds that would have the best chance of survival.
Right now, basically, the birds that are collecting they don't have the expertise to go after birds that are in flight, which people can do who are experts and have familiarity with it. So they're basically, you're saying, just going after the birds who are completely covered in oil and unable to move, and these are the birds that are likely basically to die.
Yeah, I mean, the longer a bird sits there and becomes fatigued and lower in fitness, these birds are going to have a much lower chance of survivorship.
So birds that maybe have less oil on them and can fly, they're not going after those birds because it's too much effort, it's too difficult.
Yeah, they just don't have any expertise in that area, whereas there are hundreds of people across the country, including employees of the IBRRC, that are highly trained and have responded to oil spills like this and could do the job.
When I asked federal wildlife officials about why do you have to have a state person and a federal person in each boat, it was basically like, well, we have separate chains of command, and they were trying to sell it as a good thing. It's like equal, two experts in a boat, but it just seemed bureaucratic and didn't seem to it wasn't really helping. And from what I'm being told by people who don't want to go on camera, it's basically this bureaucracy which is getting in the way of getting experts out in boats, moving, fast, and getting as many birds as possible.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no reason why there shouldn't be 50 people down in Grand Isle every morning at 5 in the morning, going out at dawn, trying to capture these birds. I mean, we're talking about a huge area, these islands and estuaries. I mean, there's a lot of coastline there to cover. And the most I've seen is 20 people. Often they're down there at 8:30 in the morning in the heat of the day. They're not down there at dawn.
You're saying they're starting too late because as it gets incredibly hot here, that's even worse for birds.
Absolutely. I mean, the heat index is such that rescue or the cleanup crews can't even work. So these birds that are mired in oil can't thermoregulate because that's what the feathers do. They heat and cool themselves by using their feathers. And once that becomes oiled and fouled, they can't do that. And
so what needs to happen? I mean, the federal wildlife official I talked to said, well, look, we have about 160 people here, some 50-odd boats. How many of those are actually on the water at any one time? He didn't actually say. But it seemed like one of the big things holding back getting more people was logistics. But it seems like there's a lot of volunteers and a lot of bird experts who would love to be down here and love to be helping.
Absolutely. I know hundreds of people that have experience handling thousands of birds that would come down here for free. I know the Audubon Society has over 17,000 people that have signed up to volunteer in this effort. And so far, they've not received a single phone call. I signed up day one to be a volunteer. I have 15 years of experience handling birds. I've not gotten a phone call.
Really? Not a phone call at all? So what needs to change? I mean, how does this logjam break?
I have no idea, Anderson. That's such a conundrum right now. It just seems like a top-down thing. They just don't want to allow any help to come into the situation.
You don't need to catch birds. You don't need 4 or 5 people in a boat. I mean, 2 or 3 people I would think would be enough.
Absolutely. 2 people, 1 person. I mean, they do employ techniques where they get somebody on the ground that kind of can scoot a bird towards somebody else or scare it out into the water, and then it can be picked up safely. So sometimes 3 people is a good number. 4 people, that's kind of ridiculous.
I was alarmed when I heard it's not bird experts in these boats any longer. It's people who are working hard. It's U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and one guy I talked to was an otter expert, another guy was a firefighter.
Right.
They all want to do good, but you need some expertise, and you need some people down there.
I mean, if we had a hostage situation, a hostage crisis in Afghanistan, we'd bring in our best military personnel, our best snipers, whatever it takes, but they'd be the most expert people in that field to deal with it. And here we have the most crucial environmental crisis ever, and no, we don't have the people that we need.
We'll keep following. I appreciate your time.
Thanks
Thank you very much. Drew Wheelan, still ahead, our look at the culprits of the catastrophe. Tonight, the man who ran BP for more than 40 years, former CEO